Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Foliage. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. In today's video, we will be talking about this beautiful Syngonium. You might have seen the unboxing video. Now, even though this succulent is called as chocolate Syngonium, but if you're going to take a closer look at the leaves are not actually chocolate in color. They are more dark green in color, but still they are named as Syngonium chocolate. Now, Syngoniums are also called as arrowhead plant. In nature, it's a woody vining plant that can grow up to 30 to 40 feet. Now, because they are epiphytes, that means that these plants will cling onto the trees and then they will start to grow. Whereas the roots might still remain in the ground, but then they will climb up on the tree trunk. Now, talking about the light requirement, you need to understand there are different varieties of Syngoniums. You have Syngoniums that are pink in color, that are lime green in color, that are light green in color. Whereas this Syngonium is very dark. The foliage of this Syngonium is very dark green in color. So this Syngonium will grow in indirect bright light, whereas it can even handle slightly low light conditions as well. But when we say low light, that does not mean that you can grow this plant in a dark room. You have to still give it a minimum amount of light. Now, the ones that have pink colored leaves, or the ones that have green, lighter green or white colored leaves, they need medium to bright indirect light, whereas these will do well in very minimum light as well. So you can even grow them in your bathroom, you can grow them in your bedroom, you can even grow them in any corner of your house. Now, watering, it is very easy to water your Syngonium. You need to let at least 50% of the soil to dry completely and then go ahead and water, or you can just put your finger into the soil and check if the soil is dry. If you feel that half of the soil is dry, you can go ahead and water. Now, there is a lot of confusion among people because a lot of people say that Syngoniums can grow in water, then how do they get rotted in by overwatering? The reason is because Syngoniums will grow in water, but there shouldn't be any soil on the roots. It has to be completely in water, then it will not rot. But if there is little soil and then you water, or if you have a pot that does not have a drain hole, it has soil, but you have filled water in it and the water is not draining out, then definitely there will be rot in the roots. So basically, whenever you're growing Syngonium in water, there shouldn't be any particles of soil on the roots, otherwise the root will rot. And when you're growing it in pot like this with soil, then you have to ensure that the pot has a drain hole and the water should drain out completely, because soil and water together will rot your Syngonium. Now, fertilizers is not much of an issue. Even if you do not fertilize it very often, it will still do quite well. It's not very finicky about fertilizers, but in case if you want to add any fertilizers, you can go for a liquid based fertilizer. Always dilute the strength and then dissolve it in a liter of water and then give it. Do not add too much of fertilizers because, as I said, they can do well in minimum fertilizer as well. Now, talking about humidity, yes, these Syngoniums do prefer a good amount of humidity. You cannot keep them in a very low humidity environment, but even in your house there is a average humidity, the plant will do quite well. Now, pests, yes, there are issues with pests. Usually they get affected with mealybugs, scale insects, so you have to be little vigilant. Just do a routine check, probably once a week or once in 2 weeks, to check if there are any mealybugs. Usually you'll have to do is just turn the leaves and check if there is anything under the leaves, because usually you'll find white flies and mealybugs under the leaves. So you need to just check the underneath of the leaves to check if there are any mealybugs or not. Now, diseases are not much of an issue with Syngoniums. Apart from what I said, you have to ensure that if you're growing it in soil, the soil has to be well draining, and if you're growing it in water, then there shouldn't be any soil. You can use pebbles and you can grow it in them, but then you have to do a water change every 4 or 5 days so that the water is fresh. But when you're using water, do not use direct tap water to grow your Syngoniums. You have to let the water sit in a bucket and then use that water for growing your Syngoniums in water. Pot size, they are not very fussy about the pot size. You can grow them in any kind of pots, but depending upon the size of the plant. Now, you can see this Syngonium is very small, so I'm using a 4-inch pot, and I do not let them grow very huge. As and when it will start growing, I'll keep cutting them and multiplying. So for me, a small pot is not an issue, but as the plant grows, you have to move to the next bigger pot. Now, for example, if this is a 5-inch pot and if this plant starts to grow a little bit bigger, I will move it into a 5-inch pot and not directly to an 8-inch pot. Propagation is pretty simple, as you know that they will also tend to put out nodes. Like over here, as you can see, there is this, because this is a small plant, so there is only one node over here. So if you want to propagate, you can just cut off from beneath the node. But you cannot cut this plant because there is only one node. But as and when it starts to grow, it will start putting out more nodes, just like how our philodendrons tend to put out nodes, and you can cut them off. Or you can even do root division. I have made a video on root division of Syngonium. You can do that process as well. Now the most important question, is this plant toxic? Yes, this plant is toxic to pets as well as to humans. So ensure that this plant is kept away from their reach, especially small children, because this plant contains calcium oxalates, which if ingested can lead to swelling of lips, mouth, tongue and airways. And especially if there is swelling in the airways, it can be difficult in breathing. So you have to ensure that this plant is kept away from small children and pets. In case if this plant is ingested, it can lead to problems and you'll have to seek medical help as soon as possible. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep planting.